So I guess in that way there's some kind of a connection, but other than that it's a little different. And so I didn't grow up really conscious. I grew up, my world was defined by religion, and then my world was defined by society telling me that the only thing that was really important was how much money I could make and how much money I could spend, and could I starve myself to look like the anorexic models on the covers of magazines, and could I always want a little something more to prove that I was worth something. And so those were the two things that guided me growing up, and I took a really severe car wreck in August of 1996 that shoved the steering wheel of a car into my skull to literally and figuratively steer me in a new direction in my life. I learned lesson the hard way, just in case you haven't figured that out yet. It took a steering wheel to kind of like go, oh, maybe there's more in life than like money and how I look, and maybe there's a real reason for me to be here. And so I kind of went in search of what that reason was, and I didn't even go in search of activism because I didn't even know about activism. You can't really go in search of something that you don't know anything about. But I went in search of, like, there's got to be a core reason why I'm here, and I want to find that reason. And so then I entered the ancient redwoods of California and was just blown away. My heart, my mind, my spirit, my body just broken open in a whole new way. And I experienced sacredness like I had never experienced in a church before. And I left that forest really transformed. And so when a couple weeks later I found out that 97% of the original redwoods are already gone. 97% of trees that are 2,000 to 3,000 years old have disappeared in the last 150 years. I found out that they're still cutting them down to this day using horrific clear-cutting practices, the same that they're using in grassy narrows, following it up with toxic herbicides and pesticides. And in California, they light the clear cuts on fire, and they use diesel fuel and in some cases napalm. Yeah. And after they're done with this toxic soup, then they have to spray chemical fertilizers because they've completely raped the earth of all of its richness, all of its true wealth. And then they use these chemical fertilizers, and then they plant two little bitty trees for every one they cut down, and they pat themselves on the back for being good stewards of the earth. Mind you, the trees are this big. They're 2,000 to 3,000 years old, 15 to 30 feet in diameter, huge ancient trees, and they plant two little seedlings for every one they cut down and say, we're models of good forestry. This is the future of your forest right here. And so when I found that out, my heart was broken as horrifically as my heart had been touched by the beauty of the forest. And I started feeling, well, maybe I should do something. And then I came up with 101 reasons why I wasn't the right person to do something. The fact that I didn't have any experience about activism. I'd never done an action before in my life. The fact that I didn't have any history or knowledge around the issue. The fact that there were plenty of people working on this issue. I should just go traveling like I really wanted to do. And then in my prayers, a very profound answer came to me, which was, Julia, if you walk away from an injustice, your inactions are as much a part of the injustice as the actions of others. Yeah. And we can cheer about it, but boy, when we have to really hold that place of really knowing that, it's intense. To know that in that moment, I cannot walk away from this injustice. Yes, I could choose to walk away, but I can't choose to walk away. That this choiceless choice that's compelling me, that if I walk away, it's the same thing as I might as well have just held a chainsaw in my hands and taken it to an ancient elder. And so with that message coming really, really clear to me, I said, okay, I'll do something. I didn't even know what, and I ended up in a tree because although I had no activist experience, I grew up with 2 brothers and no sisters, so I've climbed some trees. So finally, it was something I had experience in, and then when I went up into the tree, I thought I'd be there 3 weeks to a month, and then it turned into 2 years and 8 days. And the reason it did was because I saw this profound disconnect in our society that says nature is something like this that we come to occasionally. That nature is something for holidays or in picture books. That nature is something other than us. And as I had stayed in that tree, I began to, as all of society's and religion's teachings began to break down in me, what I saw was the very real, clear connection that we are not separate from the earth, that we are not separate from each other, that we are all connected. And that's what made me decide I had to stay, that maybe if I put my life in the same position as the forest, that it might make people realize that we are connected. And I was able to come down after 2 years and 8 days because we successfully negotiated an agreement that protected the tree that I was in that's over 1,000 years old and the grove around it. And when I came down, I just had this burning mission to try and help us all realize that it's not a story about one woman and one tree. I don't get up in front of people for what I call the Julia Butterfly show, you know, the woo-woo Julia Butterfly. If that's what it was about, I wouldn't be up here right now. I just had this burning passion to go, please, we must all wake up and realize that everything we do, everything we say, everything we think, everything we don't do changes our world. We are all change agents. We are all important. We are all heroes and sheroes, and it's not based on whether the microphone's in our hands and the cameras are on our face. It's based on, can we wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and say, today I'm going to do everything I can to make the world a better place. Because if you wake up in the morning and you do that, then you have found your own personal tree to sit in. Because for me, that's all it was. It was just like, the reason I kind of laugh and like put the exclamation mark on the 8 days after 2 years is because it was so intense up there that it really became moment by moment and breath by breath. And it was, today I'm going to do everything I can from this tree to make the world a better place. Because it was all I knew to do, and so I stayed there. But there's something that we all can do. Each one of us are so important in shaping the world. And for me, I wanted to tie my story tonight into Om. Obviously the festival, and the concept of Om. Because the Om is that universal sound of what it sounds like to be the consciousness of oneness. What it feels like to know that when we reach that place of Om, that we are connecting with everything. There's this beautiful Chinese proverb that says, "Be humble, for I am made of dung. Be noble, for I am made of stars." Because that's truly what we're made of. We're all made of the same matter. We're all connected. There's no separation. And so Om is more than just about coming and having a really damn good time. Because yes, it is a really good time. It was a big challenge for me to get here, but I'm really glad to be here. It's a beautiful experience. But Om is more than just about really great music and having a beautiful place to get down. And it's more than just about standing together in a circle and reaching into our hearts and our spirits and having the sound come out of us. Om is about that way of being in the world that actualizes the connection instead of destroying the connection. Om is about knowing that every little choice changes the world because no choice happens in a vacuum. And because those of us in privileged societies, and all of us here together right now is a sign of our privilege, and so often in our privileged societies, we're so disconnected from the choices that we make that we no longer feel that connection. And so we come to places like this to feel the connection, but what I'm up here today asking us all to do is create ways that this connection goes out into the world. Because that's what Om is really about. And I feel that's why I was asked to come here by Om, to talk about what does this look like out in the world? What does it feel like? What is it, this Om? That to me, asking all these people that I knew who are from indigenous cultures and asked them if their original language had words for waste, disposable, or trash, and there were no words in our traditional cultures that said that. Because our traditional knowledge knows that there's no such thing as waste, disposable, or trash. Right? And so I just got on fire for this mission for us all to realize what powerful change agents we are. And part of it was because after coming down from that tree, when I see the disposability consciousness of our society, what I see are the trees hitting the ground. What I see in a paper cup is a tree hitting the ground, because that's what it is. When I see a disposable container from when we go out to eat, or a plastic cup or plastic silverware, what I see is the threat to our children's future from global warming because of our addiction to petroleum and its products. What I see are the indigenous people I've been able to work with in Ecuador who are being pushed into genocide from our addiction to oil and the drilling of it. What I see is a threat to Alaska from our addiction to petroleum and its products. What I see in the paper bags and the plastic bags and all of this disposability consciousness, I see the threat of where it starts. And so what I ask all of you to do is to take a moment and think about if you saw the thread that connected your choice to its original spot,